Money Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community.
A very good morning and warm welcome to Money Sense. I'm Simon Cawdery and I'm delighted to be joined for the first time on Money Sense by Christina Spratt. Christina is the founder and principal consultant at Tidal Consulting, which is a management consultancy firm that helps businesses and governments strategically integrate emerging technologies such as AI into their organizations. Christina holds a degree in systems engineering and is a certified chief AI officer, amongst many other qualifications. Christina, a pleasure to have you join Money Sense this morning on Radio Cayman.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Now, our topic is going to be AI, artificial intelligence, which I know is a subject that's close to your heart. One of the things I think that perhaps might help personalize AI for our listeners is just to understand what got you involved or interested in AI, because it's such for so many people, it's such an imposing topic. It has so many complexities. So what was it about AI as a topic that got you and said, I want to be involved in this, I want to get to learn and know more about it?
So for me, let's just start by saying I'm a techie.
Okay.
So because I'm a techie, I love understanding new emerging technologies. And that's just going on a very technical side of it and saying, I really just don't want to talk about AI, but I want to understand AI and I really want to understand how it works. But that's not the case for everybody. AI is one of those things that really helps people do things faster, better, more efficiently. So I guess that's why I would tell people to start learning AI and just teasing with it. It doesn't have to be scary.
Well, it is, though, to a lot of people, isn't it? Because I think perhaps a lot of people look at it and go, I read lots of horror stories or lots of scare stories. I read stories that say AI is coming for your jobs. AI is going to replace you. AI is going to make you redundant. AI is going to do all these bad things to you.
Right, right.
And papers are nothing if not wanting to encourage those sorts of headlines. You know, the newspapers, the TV shows, they all talk about that thing. Is that the reality, or is actually the truth slightly different to that?
I think the truth is slightly different to that. Let's just start looking at the facts. AI doesn't think like a human. AI does not have intuition. AI does not have emotions. So is it going to replace a human? No, it's not going to replace a human.
Sounds like it might replace me, though, worryingly, if that's the basis of AI. But okay.
If you say so. I think that your intuition is quite good, Simon, so I wouldn't say that. But it does help us learn faster from data. So something that it would take you normally a day to just analyze data and get to your conclusions. Because let's remember, and I always say this out loud, even without AI, you can have all the data in the world, but if you don't get that data and transform it into the right information, it's useless to you. And that's just in a normal day.
And I guess the world now is so full of data. There's so many pieces of data that exist, whereas before capturing data and storing it was so expensive and difficult that it was less problematic. But now almost everything is captured.
Yeah. And that's to our advantage, to our detriment sometimes, depending on how you look at it, but to our advantage because there is so much more that we can look at when we're looking at data. We don't limit ourselves in just looking at a section of the data. You can look at the data in so many spectrums out there. And what AI is helping us is to read that data faster. Something that would take me before 4 hours to do, I can do it in 10 minutes now. And it's just because AI is helping me. And one example of that is a PowerPoint presentation.
I still use those. Go on. What am I doing wrong? You're filling me with dread right now. I feel as though I'm about to be told I'm a Luddite, effectively.
No, you're not. And it's just where I'm going with this is that there's a lot of tools out there that already are using AI. And we just have to get a little bit uncomfortable to use those tools that are using AI and start leaving behind the tools that don't use AI. And I'm sure that, I'm just giving an example of PowerPoint because it's just a really easy example to relate to. I'm sure that at some point PowerPoint is going to pick up because at the end of the day, Microsoft will pick up with it and it'll have some AI integrated with it. But a very famous, known application that's replacing PowerPoint is Canva. Canva is completely full of AI. And why is it full of AI? Because it has natural language processing. It has image processing. So you can ask Canva, I need an image that has these characteristics. And Canva will be like, here you go. You want to see a dragon on the beach? Canva will produce you a dragon on the beach.
I thought you were going to offer me a dragon in real life on the beach. That would be, but go on.
No, you can just see him in pictures.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But yeah, and so I got a bit uncomfortable. I know PowerPoint inside out. I use PowerPoint in a daily basis. Creating a presentation, anything that I want to kind of present, I put it in a PowerPoint.
Which everybody who's listening to this has probably used PowerPoint day in, day out and go, oh, I can relate to that. It's slow, it's quite painful, it's quite clunky, but functionally it presents things in a nice way and it works. But you're saying take a chance in effect and try this new.
Yeah, try something that has AI.
Yeah.
I'm recommending Canva because it's the one that I use. I'm not saying it's the only one that's out there. There's a lot of applications out there that use AI. But a good one to replace PowerPoint with is Canva. And I can tell you, the first couple of times that I used Canva, the PowerPoint presentation that typically takes me 4 hours took me 8 hours. So it was double the time.
Right.
Because it was a new tool that I was learning.
I see. So, but there's hopefully a but coming here.
But that's exactly it. But now, because I've gotten used to where the things are in Canva, Canva has learned about my preferences, because that's one thing that AI does. It learns the preferences of the person that's using it. When I'm doing PowerPoint presentations, I do them, something that was 4 hours, I do them now in 30 minutes. It just helps me. It knows my styles. It knows how I like doing my presentations. So instead of me having to repeat myself every time that I'm going to start a new PowerPoint presentation, or having to recycle an old presentation to be able to use it, it just has all my settings, all the color palettes that I like using, all the images that I like using, all the different ways that I like presenting my information on it, because it's learned about me. So I can do things that used to take me 4 hours now in 30 minutes.
So that's an example of AI as a tool to automate and to be more efficient, to help people in their day-to-day lives. Perhaps one of the things that confuses me and perhaps other people when they think of AI is it's almost an overarching term for a lot of other things. So there's AI, there's machine learning, there's all sorts of things. Are they all the same? Do they mean different things? How should one interpret those?
Okay, so you threw a lot of terms out there. Let's just go in order. In order for simplicity. So the first one out there is automation. Mm-hmm. AI uses some automation, but automation doesn't necessarily use AI. Automation is something as simple as it follows a fixed set of rules. When you go out of office and you want to let people know that you're out of office, you go into your Outlook, you go into the out of office automatic reply, and then you kind of tell it every time that there is an email coming in, send out a response saying, I'm out of office. That's automation in its simplest way. So anytime that you need something that just needs to be repeating itself, goes with automation. Now, the next term after that is machine learning. Machine learning goes a step ahead of automation, because machine learning is automating, but it's also learns from the data. It also starts recognizing patterns. So in this case, it's going to start helping you predict things. I'll give you a next example on that one. In machine learning, we're talking about, let's say a restaurant needs to understand how many staff do they need at a specific time. After they set it up and they start paying, okay, I need to learn when my restaurant is busy, when my restaurant is not busy. I'm going to start logging into this application every booking that I have, the times of the week. Throughout time, the machine learning is going to say, your busiest time according to your bookings is at 1 p.m. every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
And I guess a human could do that, but that's something that computers will replace, allowing the human then to be serving the customers and doing other things more productively.
Absolutely. Like in this case, a restaurant manager most likely is the one analyzing and saying, oh, I know what this happens and this is happening, right? But then that manager can actually start focusing on different things. Things like, okay, let me make sure that I have the right staff. Let me make sure that this is efficient. Oh, that's right. In summertime, it fluctuates because in summertime, and that's something that as humans we're going to forget because year in, year out, unless you're really on top of it, you forget the seasonality of what happens in January, what happens in February, what happens in specific dates. You might just be very busy that week and just forget that, I don't know, Mother's Day came around.
It's not Mother's Day coming around, is it?
It's not.
Okay, thank you.
It's not.
Okay.
But that's what machine learning does.
Right.
It just learns and it starts predicting and it starts telling you what's going on.
Yeah. So it helps people avoid making mistakes, then that's what that does. And it helps people, well, that's one thing it could do. It helps people avoid making mistakes, helps people perhaps simplify some of the complex stuff that otherwise is distracting.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Okay.
It takes out the noise and it just points out to the data, to the facts that you have. And then if we go to the next step, because we've talked about automation, we talked about machine learning. And then if you look at AI is kind of the big umbrella term between automation, machine learning, but it also has the image recognition that I was talking about, the natural language processing, which, by the way, if you use ChatGPT, I use ChatGPT. If you use the paid version, not the free version is slightly different. The paid version actually starts learning you. And because it starts learning you, it actually starts learning how you want things presented, how you want things out there. And that decision making goes a little bit more
so
precise.
The paid version has more customization to you as the user.
Yes.
Interesting.
And your information doesn't go out there to the world like in the free version. So if you're using ChatGPT free version, please don't put information that you don't want out there in the world in the free version of ChatGPT, because you might be getting in trouble with GDPR.
Yeah, especially if you put your own personal financial information or health information, that could be used by rogue actors to do bad things, you're sort of saying. Is that fair? Interesting. Well, that's got me slightly nervous and worried, but I better go and see. But I guess in a sense that makes people think, well, is it safe to use artificial intelligence, ChatGPT type products? And you're sort of saying, well, one thing that could be interpreted from that is the non-paid versions actually carry with them some risks that we should be aware of.
Yep. No, absolutely. And what it really is important is that if you're using it for work, you've got to talk to your managers, you've got to talk to upper management, and you've got to understand what are you able to use it for and what you're not being able to use it for. And that's kind of where the frameworks go into place.
I think that's a good segue to actually take a quick break. And I think when we come back, what we'll do is we'll focus a little bit more on what sort of framework should one be thinking of from a corporate environment perspective in order to ensure that AI is used in a safe and productive sort of manner. Because you've set us up for a nervous 1 minute break while we worry about whether we're using it correctly or whether we should be using it slightly differently. But I think it's a very healthy conversation to return after the break. So please do join us back in less than a minute.
As a parent, I know I would do anything to protect my child against cancer. As a Minister of Health, I know that the HPV vaccine is the best protection available against HPV-related cancers. The vaccine is safe and is being offered free of cost for 9 to 25-year-olds across all 3 of our islands. For more information, contact the Public Health Department on 244-2648 or 244-2889.
This is
Money Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community. Brought to you by the CFA Society Cayman Islands.
And now, more Money Sense.
Welcome back to Money Sense, and today's show with Christina Spratt discussing artificial intelligence, what it is, where it's headed, and what we as individuals living and working in Cayman need to know about it. We ended the first half of the show with a mild warning that perhaps companies aren't as thoughtful, or those companies aren't as thoughtful as they might be about how AI is used in the workplace, perhaps should be a little bit more thoughtful about it. So perhaps just talk to us, Christina, about your views on what sort of procedures, protocols, policies companies should be thinking through in order to make sure, not that they don't use it, but that they use it productively and safely.
That's a definitely a great question. A little bit of a mouthful, and I'm going to try to break it down for everybody. And I'll just kind of start by saying, like, one of the things that I do in my company is that I talk to other businesses. I talk to businesses, and businesses that hire me are specifically about. They're not asking me, can we use AI? They're not asking me, how can we use AI? Just that, very general statement out there. It's more about, how do we use it responsibly? How does it support our bigger goals? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, you can go on a tangent and you can use AI in so many ways that, are they actually supporting your goals, or are they actually hindering your goals? And I'll give an example of that. And there's articles about it out there. There's some companies that have just put chatbots out there to just respond to customers. But the chatbots haven't been properly trained. That phase. So when you're creating anything in AI, you have the development phase. Within that development phase, when it's being developed, there's then afterwards the training. If you're not training it correctly, it's going to not predict correctly. Let me just simplify this. If you have a chatbot that's being trained to recognize animals, and all you've done during the training phase is show it cats and dogs, what's going to happen when you show it a rabbit? It's going to say it's a funny-looking dog.
Dog with long ears.
A dog with long ears, because it's never recognized anything else, right? So, again, going back to the businesses, I know I went to a very basic example. That's the example I use with kids, but it's a really easy way of understanding it. So when we use it responsibly, we're making sure that it's giving it the right answers. And that's where businesses have to be very careful. Why? Because if the chatbot is advising the customer on something, and that's what you've trained the chatbot to do, if that chatbot gives wrong information because it predicted something, because something went the different way, you can't then come to the customer that did what the chatbot told them to do and say, oh, that's really not how it's done. The chatbot gave you the wrong information. Because at that point in time, the chatbot was actually representing you and your company. So there has to be that responsibility, that whatever you put out there.
So build it prudently and take your time about training it to ensure it delivers the experience that you would want it to deliver in all circumstances, in not necessarily all, but in the vast majority of circumstances.
Exactly. And that's where also the human comes in place, because ultimately the human is the one that's going to be responsible for those responses. Mm-hmm. So you always want, if you have a chatbot, you want to make sure that you have a human in the background kind of reviewing those answers on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on an hourly basis, to make sure that it's not going into a tangent and into a rabbit hole of wrong information.
You mentioned that there's paid versions of ChatGPT. You've mentioned the PowerPoint replacement. I think it's fair to say a lot of people who think of AI still think of it as being ChatGPT, though, because that's the one that is most often in the news. Mm-hmm. So what other tools should one be thinking of or become more aware of in order to broaden one's knowledge of AI and therefore the potential of it? Because if you only see AI through the lens of ChatGPT, you're probably not remotely getting the full potential benefits of it. So help educate us, and by us I mean perhaps me in this scenario, help educate me on what the wider range of options are that I should be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're already using generative AI, that is what ChatGPT is, you're already a step ahead. So you're already in the right path. Why? Because you're exploring it, you're experimenting with it. I would invite you to go a little step further and try the paid version and see the differences, because there are differences, there are visible differences. Ask the same question in the free version and the paid version, and you will see the differences.
Really? Wow.
But there's also other things. AI is all around us, like it or not. If you want to push back on AI, you're going to have to just turn off the lights in your house and just not do anything. Your phone uses AI to recognize if you unlock your phone with your face, that's AI in action. It's learned every profile of your face in different angles, and it just says, yep, that's Simon. Mm-hmm. If you have a Roomba at home, those little vacuums that clean the floors, they use AI because they're actively learning the best and most efficient ways to clean your floors. That's AI. If you are using Netflix and it's constantly showing you the next video that you want to use, if you're using YouTube, the next video, that's AI in action. It's actually learning your preferences, and it is saying, I think that you might like this now. So, yeah, I would say you want to take it on another notch. If you're just using ChatGPT, try Canva. There's a free version of Canva. Try, I love using a calendar app. I personally use Motion. Some other people use Calendly. There's several out there. Just look at them. I have 3 email addresses, and some people send me invitations to one email address or a calendar invite into the other one. And then I'm just like, oh my God, I can't mix them together. Motion actually, I tell Motion literally, I just sit down in the mornings and I'm just like, I've got to do these things today. And it just slots it in my calendar. If I have calendar invites from different calendars, it just tells me, you've got this, you've got that. It literally has become my own personal assistant, which would be scary for the personal assistant person that's out there. But if that person knows how to use those tools really well, they're actually going to be like this superhuman assistant to whoever they are assisting.
Yeah, their ability to do their job just gets enhanced, right? They can then do additional things in addition to. So I think that's often, isn't it, one of the major concerns. You look and go, people say these things about what AI can do, and it's going to replace my job. But perhaps the message I'm hearing you say is, in some respects, it will replace certain aspects of jobs, but it will make you more productive by allowing you to not have to focus on very often the mundane, very often the boring, very often the repetitive.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And a good example of that as well, just bringing it down a little bit more to something that's more relatable. And I'll just go down the accountant's path. Mm-hmm. 20 years ago, an accountant was doing all the accounting in paper books. And companies would have all of these big books with all of their finances in the books. And the accountants would spend hours and hours of just being extremely organized, writing in every number that was in there. Then spreadsheets came out, QuickBooks came out, and accountants started learning how to use these. Nowadays, which accountant would you pick for your company? The paper accountant that never learned QuickBooks or Excel, or the accountant that actually uses the tools to make their job faster? They're both great accountants, but the paper accountant might take 10 hours to do what a QuickBooks accountant will take 1 hour. Yeah. And the same thing is happening with AI.
So just a question of improving productivity and to your point, I suppose there are many more accountants in the world today than there were 30, 40 years ago, despite the fact that so many of these tools, I suppose, were feared at the time by those same people as being job replacers or job stealers in many respects.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you think about it, from 20 years ago to now, there's so many other jobs out there that you would have never imagined 20 years ago. There's media managers. When did you imagine there was going to be a media manager 20 years ago or 30 years ago? They are app developers. There's data privacy officers. Those are all new roles that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. And there's going to be new roles coming out with AI that it doesn't have to be just developing the apps. I love development. I know programming. Do I do it? No, I don't. It's not my thing. But I do like going into the understanding the ethics of AIs, putting together the frameworks for businesses for them to use AI efficiently, to use it to support their strategy, their goals, not just let's just throw this on the wall and see if it sticks.
Talking of the subject then, where or how do you think Cayman is itself positioned, and how is Cayman doing, and how are people in Cayman doing in response to the emergence of AI as a tool, how are we positioned compared to other countries, and how do you think we're doing in terms of our adoption and our awareness and our approach to it?
Great question. So I would dare to say that right now, Cayman, the adoption is happening, but it's happening really quietly. people are not talking about it too out loud because they're kind of waiting to see what the other person says. I would dare to say that Cayman is in the early stages of AI adoption, especially if you're comparing Cayman to other countries where there's national AI strategies, there's guidelines, there's innovation hubs, there's large-scale digital investments in other countries. And you're like, shoot, are we behind? But that doesn't really mean that we're behind. It means that we are right now in a really interesting window of opportunity. And within that window of opportunity, we have the opportunity to learn what's happening in the global landscape, and we can leapfrog ourselves with intention to be and position ourselves in the right direction. I've been talking about the national AI strategy. Cayman should have a national AI strategy and be able to say, this is what we're seeing right now. We should have a shared vision of what we're doing, what we're looking at. And I do strongly believe that we would highly benefit of that as a community, as a country, because it's going to allow us to invest in skills and innovation and in ethical guidelines that as a small community with really, really large global outlook can do very quickly.
I think one of the things that's perhaps, we've only got a minute left in time, I notice, but one of the things that's perhaps most intriguing to me about AI is that it doesn't matter how small or large the country that you live in, or what skills or background you have, the resources of AI are available identically to all. So there's no reason to suspect that someone in Cayman couldn't create a multi-billion-dollar company using artificial intelligence, because the tools that they're using are the same as the tools that someone in Silicon Valley is using. It's all out there. It's all, in many cases, freely available or publicly available.
Absolutely. And I would just compliment with what you just said, because you were spot on it. It's about us being intentional with what we do, what we learn, and how we actually do it, intentionally adopt these skills to be able to lead with purpose on it.
I guess the message in some respects is people just need to be not confident, but more willing to take the risk to try it, because it's not it's a confidence thing in some respects, but it is a risk to try something new, to test a new system, a new device, but there's no downside to that risk, because if it doesn't work and you don't like it, don't continue using it. Go back to what you were, but at least try.
Yes, and I think that's with any new thing, any new job, any new skill that you're learning. At the beginning, it's just uncomfortable because we're humans of really, really of just habits. Yeah. We're humans of habits, and we don't like getting outside of those habits. But if we actually just get involved, stay informed, and we help shape how AI is being used in our community, we're not going to be left behind, and we shouldn't be scared of that. Yep.
Well, that embarrassingly was my timer saying time is up, so I should have drawn the show to a close just before that timer went off. However, a few minutes over, Christina, we have regrettably reached the end of our time. Thank you for spending the time this morning with us, discussing and educating me definitely, and hopefully others, on a little bit more about what AI is, why it's important to take that leap of trying and using, and the potential that it has and the uses it has. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. As a quick reminder, finally, to all our listeners, our shows can be found on YouTube, and those with topics that you wish us to cover, do send us an email to moneysense@cfacayman.ky. With all that said, simply to say thank you again for tuning in, and encourage you to do so again in 2 weeks' time.